For the first time in ages, I wake up and don't hate it. I guess I've found some peace. Through the day to the evening, without shouting and screaming, something new to me. Alone without being lonely, getting back to the old me. It's kinda nice to feel free. I thought this was over, thought I could control it. But if I speak the truth, I ain't over you. I was feeling sober until you came up now. I don't know what to do. I ain't over you. I ain't over. I ain't over. No matter what I do, I ain't over you. Give it time, things will settle. Just a face till it's better, yeah. Heard it all before. Even though we were toxic, feels the most when you've lost it. That's just how it goes. By myself feeling lonely, can't get back to the old me. I'm stuck in way too deep. I thought this was over, thought I could control it. But if I speak the truth, I ain't over you. I was feeling sober until you came up now. I don't know what to do. I ain't over you. I ain't over. I ain't over. No matter what I do, I ain't over you. I ain't over. I ain't over. No matter what I do, I ain't over you. Ain't over you. I ain't over you. And no matter what I do, I ain't over you.
Lay awake until the morning, in an ocean so deep. Got a feeling like I'm dauntless whenever you're next to me. 'Cause I've climbed higher than I could dream of. Now using wires, I know I'm falling free. You set me off into emotion where I can just be me. You give a little, but you're giving me just what I need. No time for riddles, you're in the middle of my self-release. You have unchained me. You haven't, yeah, you have unchained me. You haven't, yeah. When all my troubles seem to haunt me, you uncover the truth. 'Cause nothing really matters when you see it from a distance, yeah, yeah. 'Cause I'm up higher than planes could take me. I have acquired everything I need. You set me off into emotion, oh yeah, where I can just be free. You give a little, but you're giving me just what I need. No time for riddles, you're in the middle of my self-release. You have unchained me. You haven't, yeah, you have unchained me. You haven't, oh yeah, yeah. I don't spend time thinking about what could go wrong. self-release. 'Cause you have unchained me. You have you have unchained me. You have yeah. You have, yeah. Say you have unchained me, yeah. You have unchained me.
Let me ask you something. What does financial freedom mean to you? Is it having enough money to retire early? Or is it traveling the world without the worry of bills? Or maybe it's just waking up every day knowing that you have the freedom to choose how you spend your time. Here's the truth. Financial freedom isn't about the money itself. It's about what the money allows you to do. It's the power to say yes to the things that matter and to say no to the things that don't. It's the ability to create a life that feels rich, not in dollars, but in purpose and experiences and relationships. Living a rich life is about more than just hitting a financial goal. It's about designing a life you don't need to escape. It's knowing that every dollar you earn is working harder for you than you did for it. And most importantly, it's about having a choice. The choice to live life on your own terms, without being tied to a paycheck or a job you hate, or someone else's idea of success. But let's be real, it's not easy to get there. We're surrounded by distractions, temptations, and a system designed to keep us trapped in a cycle of debt and dependency. The good news? You don't need to be a millionaire to start living a life by choice. Financial freedom starts with small, intentional steps. Building your first $10,000 in savings, investing in yourself, your skills, your knowledge, your health, and learning how to make your money work for you instead of the other way around. Because financial freedom isn't a destination, it's a mindset. It's about making decisions today that will give you more options tomorrow. It's not about having more money, it's about being in control of it. So I'll leave you with this. What kind of life do you want to create? Because the journey to financial freedom isn't just about numbers. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful, fulfilling, and uniquely yours. And the best part, you can start today. All right. So good to be here. I hope that you are doing amazing this morning. Let me know if you can hear me and all that. We got an international audience, which is cool, like France and Israel and plenty of people in the U.S., Tennessee, Dandridge, Tennessee, Nashville. I was just in Nashville speaking last week. We have Texas in the house, Florida in the house. So cool. Y'all, so here's the deal. Let's have some fun. We're gonna chat today. This was not a planned live, even though I scheduled it, but it was not intentionally on my calendar. Many of you know and have been part of the 3 days, the 3-part training, the Money Machine Experience Live training, which if you have not been through it, the replays are still up. You can jump in here, go to moneymachinelive.com, get the replays. They'll be up for about a week more, so you can go through all of the deep dive trainings. The ahas, everything have been off the charts. But what happened is that I got questions in, and we've had thousands of people register for that training, and I got some questions in around how do I get paid more? How do I price things? How do I do that? And truth be told, this is such a thank you so much, Simone. Is that truth be told that this idea of it is really one of the most important decisions you can make around your finances, around building wealth. And the title of this session, I decided to title it Accelerating Your Wealth, because here's what I know. There's there's a very basic equation to building wealth, getting to financial freedom. It's money in, money out, and the difference in between. Okay, that margin in between. And the thing that a lot of personal finance folks do and advisors do, they focus on the money out. Oh, well, let's look at your expenses. And we do that. Okay, we do that. Let's focus on the expenses. Let's start cutting things out so you have more money left at the end of the month. Okay? And that can work, except you will never find a life of fulfillment through deprivation. It's just not going to happen. And so we still need to manage that side, but we often don't think about the other side of the equation, the money inside of the equation. And here's what we realize is that the bigger the shovel of income we have to use to build our wealth, the faster we can build our wealth. Okay? And so when the questions started to come in, I thought, I can answer the question. But because I had a similar question multiple times, I said, how about we put it out there in the world? How about we do a training on it, and I can give you my perspective on this. How do you build a bigger shovel of income so you can have more to start building wealth, to live your life in the way that you want? And so that's where this came about. And I think that the first thing to understand is this idea that I think that we confuse our true offer, our true product with a commodity. Here's what I mean by this, is that I am a CPA by education, but a lot of the things that I did, and I got some frameworks I'm going to draw out for you and all that stuff. And I'll make sure that you'll be able to see recordings and everything. So, because I really want you all to get this. This is so hugely important in your financial journey. And that is that, so I would value businesses for a living, businesses that were part of an estate tax thing or a litigation or a sale or something like that. And inevitably what happens is that when I was done with my analysis, I would produce a report. And that report would go to the client. Well, what most people in the business thought is that their product was the report. No. The report was a commodity. The product was a solution. Think about it this way. I used to own a martial arts studio. I want you to start thinking about what you are providing, the things that you do in the construct and in the umbrella of the solutions you provide versus the hours you put in. When I had the martial arts studio, I had a martial arts studio for 11 years. I've been in the martial arts for going on 40 plus years, 50 years almost, and lived and trained in Japan. And I used to sit with my instructors and I would ask them this exact question. What is our product here at the school? And their inevitable response at the beginning was, well, it's self-defense. It's martial arts. It's karate, it's jujitsu, it's whatever it was. I said, no, that's the commodity. Because there's 12 martial arts studios in a 10-mile radius. That's not the differentiator. What we're truly selling at the school is caring, is belief. And we're doing it through a martial arts program. But the thing is that I looked at my instructors and I said, and think about it this way. When you step on the mat and you're going to teach the 3 techniques we're going to teach in today's session, and you know that the outcome of the session is not just the techniques, but that they feel cared about, will you do it differently? And the answer is yes. And I want us to start to think about things in the construct of the solutions we provide, and not confuse it with the commodity that gets into the math of hours versus dollars. Okay? Because we are in a value exchange economy where people are not buying stuff, they're buying value. And time for money is a horrible business model. It should have gone by the way of the dinosaur, but it is what it is today. And what I want you to start to look at, and I'll walk you through some frames to help you with this, is to understand that your pricing is also positioning, and you'll see how this plays out. And so you're in a time right now in your business, in your journey, to realize that there are no inconsequential choices you're going to make. And that the choice that might seem insignificant today can create a cascade of results and changes in the future. And that when you stack those seemingly insignificant choices in the right direction, you create monumental change. There is greatness in each of you, and it is waiting and it is aching to get out and run. And I'm going to urge you to let it fly. I'm going to urge you to let it go. I'm going to urge you to sit back and ask yourself this question. There is a gap between how good you are now and how good you are capable of being. And it's all about being the best you can be and living it fully expressed. That's the journey you're on. And the financial freedom gives you the latitude to make the choices that will be meaningful to you on this journey. And your growth, especially financial, is never linear. We think it's linear, but it's not. What I want you to do is start looking at things in a very different set of eyes, because just sitting back and saying, Mel, I just want to double my business, that's linear thinking. That relies on incremental improvements. But 10x growth, that's a complete transformation. 10x growth is driven by shifting your current thinking and your current paradigms. And that's what I hope to do on this, is that I want us to really start to look at it through a different set of eyes. So I'm going to jump to my iPad and I want to draw some things out for you so you start to understand where I'm going with this, and we'll talk it through. Because whether you're in a job, whether you're in a business, whether you're a service provider, I want you to just start thinking differently about pricing, about wages, about salary, about who you are. So you can present it differently to those that are buying from you. And your buying from you could be your employer that's hiring you. It could be your clients that desire you. And I'll walk you through how I do things and how I see things. Now, I came from the most commoditized industry ever, accounting. We were charging time by 6-minute increments, okay? You couldn't get more commoditized than that. We devalued what we did to a math equation. And that's the thing that I want us to shift, because when I shifted that in my practice, what happened is my revenues, my profits, and my time skyrocketed because I wasn't selling hours anymore. I was selling solutions. Here's the thing. When you look at it this way, okay, what happens is often the folks that we're working with, they come at it and they look at things in the construct of what's your rate, and they look at it from the context of cost. Now, that's what we think is going on in their head. But what's really going on in the head, what we really need to think about is a different paradigm. And on this side of the equation, on this side of the circle, what is really important to consider is not rate, but value. Okay? And then on the other side of the equation, on the other side of this equation, instead of cost, this is something that a lot of times we don't even know is going on in the background. It's not cost that actually is in the customer's head, into the company's head. It's this thing called affordability. Affordability. Now I want to break this down for you because what is really important to realize here is this side of the equation, you control. But the other side of the equation, your clients, the people you work for, they control it. That's about them, but the left side is about you. Hopefully this is making sense. Now, there are three things that will drive value, because what you're selling is value, not hours, not sessions, not a report, not an analysis, not any of it. See, value's on them, affordability is on, value's on you, affordability is on them. But the tendency is that when we are coming from a place of rate and cost, we come from a place of trying to convince people that we're worth it. And you can tell someone that's trying to convince people by virtue of how they show up. And it's almost pleading with what they do. What I want to shift things from is this idea of convincing. Now, let me give you a real story that happened to me, and then I'm going to break down the three things you need to have on the value side, the three things on the affordability side to bring this home, and I got a few more things to do here. But here's the thing. I was working at one of the top attorneys in Beverly Hills, calls me in to meet with his client. And he's unfortunately no longer with us. But Elliot calls me and I go down to his office. We've got this beautiful conference room in Beverly Hills, California. And I'm sitting there with a client. We start to chat. And at the end of the session, it comes to this whole idea of fees. And he says, okay, great. How much is this going to cost? I started to hem and haw. I started to hesitate. And then I spit it out. Here's what it would cost. And then the client looks at me and says, great, send me an engagement letter. Let's get started. And then the client leaves. And I'm getting up, packing my stuff, getting ready to leave. And Elliot says, hold on for a second, Mel. I said, yeah. He says, I want to be real straight with you. He said, if you ever hesitate again in front of one of my clients about the pricing and the value you provide, I will never bring you in for another client. He said, what you did is you were worried about convincing them of your worth. And one of the biggest problems I see with accelerating our wealth is we first don't own our own worth. It's one of the first questions to say, how do I get paid more? How do I accelerate wealth? I said, are you owning your own worth? Do you know the value of what you provide? Because if you don't own it, no one else will. No one will buy it. And he says, you have a unique set of experience and expertise that I'm bringing to the table with my clients. He says, the problem is that your hesitation was because you believe that you have to deal with the price. He says, that's not for you to deal with the price. Your job is to stand not in the convincing of it, but in the conviction of it. And when you stand in the conviction of it, you put it on the table and you sit there and let them deal with it because it is theirs to deal with, not yours. And that completely shifted how I did things from that point forward. And so what I want you to start looking at is through the eyes of having conviction to the value you provide. Now, there are three things that come into play here. Okay. And those three things are, the first is to get really, really clear. I get it. Guilty as charged, Simone. I mean, I am there. Okay. Brian, thank you. Thank you. So is to realize that the first thing that you need to understand is, what is the solution you provide? What is the solution you provide? There was a case that I got pulled into, a $20 million tax case, where my work was going to reduce their tax bill by $3 million. $3 million was going to go back in their pocket. The solution I was providing was a $3 million solution. It wasn't 10, 20 hours times my hourly rate. That's the thing that we need to understand. Solution is one piece of it, but the second part of this is perception. Perception meaning this: what is the perception of you in the marketplace? What's the perception of the solution? What's the perception of the risk around it? Here's the interesting thing. When I first started trying to build my practice years ago, the attorneys wouldn't hire me because they said, you have no experience. I said, oh, but if you don't hire me, I don't get any experience. I might as well just go flip burgers. So what did I do? Now we're going back a ways. No internet. It was in the mid 1990s. So what did I do? I went out and started to speak, but I didn't just speak. When I was speaking, I would put a press release out before I spoke. I would put a press release out after I spoke. I would create a 500-word article after I spoke around it. And I would send those out all the time to folks. And what ended up happening is the perception was, holy hell, he is all over the place. Do you know that they stopped asking if I had experience because they just perceived I did? And that began this snowball effect in my career. And whether you're in a job or building a practice, the same thing. When I was working for the big consulting firm in downtown, I built a reputation. I was like Mikey with Life Cereal. If it was an odd project, if it was something they've never done before, they said, give it to Mel, he'll figure it out. I took on every project that no one else wanted. And I created a perception that allowed me to grow. Now, solution and perception are great. However, you have to back it up with results. You have to back it up with results. Because if we don't back it up with results, then it all falls apart. So you still have to get the results into it. That's the value side of the equation. Now, there's two things that will drive this, okay? Two things that are really important when it comes to this. And that is this. First, it is your ability to articulate it. You have to get good at not pleading your case because that's convincing. Rather, you have to get good at believing and living and stepping into your truth and articulating it. The second is execution, getting the results that you want. That will start to shift the perception and the reality in the marketplace over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but this is the thing that we need to look at. Just because you have a degree, just because you have certifications, that's not what's going to drive this. Okay? Now let's look at the other side of the equation. Because this is the them side, this is the they side, this is the clients. There's three things over there too. Okay? And the three things for them, first is this idea of resourcefulness. Resourcefulness. Here's the deal. Your clients, your companies will get resourceful when they see the value at a level that they just can't walk away from it. Resourcefulness. When I got the first doctor I saw for the cancer, it was a Thursday. I go in. He had already sent me in for a CT scan 12 days before. And then I'm going in to see the results. And we walk into his office and he looks at me and he says, hey, we saw what we think is a 5-centimeter tumor, the CT scan. We need to go in. So he does a scope and he says, yeah, it's there. I need you in for surgery. I want you in on Monday. It's an emergency. I'm like going, what? But here's the deal. He sat on the CT scan for 12 days. Now, I was supposed to leave to England the next day, and we canceled the trip. But we sat on, so my wife and I walked out of his office and sat in the parking lot, and we both looked at each other and said, he's not touching me. If he sat on a CT scan for 12 days, he's not touching me. Let's find someone else. And she's been in the medical industry all her life. She starts calling colleagues. And the surgeon's name came up 3 times. We're sitting in the parking lot. We call him. His office says, we happen to have an opening tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I said, we're there. We're there. He became my surgeon. And I'll tell you, he saved my life. He saved my bladder. He saved all of it because of who he was. But in that moment, I looked at it and I said, I don't care what it takes. I don't even know if he's on my insurance. I want the best hands on me to solve this. And so I was going to be as resourceful as I needed to make sure I got the care that I wanted. And your clients, when you're good at articulating it and you have that perception, they'll get much more resourceful because they see the value. Now, there is something else here. There is resourcefulness, but there is also this idea of resources. There will be those that just simply can't do it. Maybe it's not because of money. It might be because of time. So they're balancing this resourcefulness and this resources. And they're also balancing one more R, and that is risk. The risk of hiring you, the risk that maybe it's wrong, the risk that you don't get the results. So our job is to speak to the value in such a way that they're going to be resourceful, they will find the resources, and they will reduce the risks in their mind. Okay? So as much as on the value side, we're focused on articulate and execute, there's 2 things here that we need to focus on. And what that is first, confidence. We need to give and instill confidence in the client for who we are, for what we do, for what you provide. But confidence alone won't get them to do it. What we then need to do is instill urgency. Urgency to get them to see it. Okay? This is the equation that when you start to look at things from a pricing standpoint and you get really, really good at articulating and executing and focusing on value, building the confidence and urgency, you will get them to start to look at things through the eyes of resourcefulness, risk, and value. Now, you end up getting paid for the value you provide, not some report, not some of the other things. There are a couple different ways that you can get paid or priced. One is time and materials, which is what most people do. How many hours? That's a math equation. There's no way of winning that battle. There's no way of winning that battle. The second way that sometimes we price is based on client. So we look at it and we go, they're driving a Jaguar. I wonder what they can afford to pay. Hold on a second. We don't price based on the client. Okay? The third way that we sometimes price is based on competition. We look around us and say, what are they doing? Who cares what the competition's doing? Because you're you. You have your unique value. You have your unique solution. You've created a perception. You got certain results. There's a fourth way, and this is the way I want you to do it, is I want you to price through positioning. Who are you in the marketplace? Whether it's in a job or whether it's in a career, a profession, or a business. Who are you in the marketplace? Because when you do that, that shifts how things are done. And you never ever talk about costs without it being in the context of value. You don't talk about it in the context of in any other way. Otherwise, it's a problem. Now, when we talk about value, we talk about also the consequence of getting it wrong. When we get our clients more concerned about fixing the problem that they want solved than they are of the pricing, they buy. They buy. And so I don't price things based on hours. I price things based on solutions. Think about it this way. If you just look at it this way, and I'm just gonna let me just add a sheet. I can do it here. Okay. Let's do it here. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's say that someone comes to me and I'm sitting down with them and I look at them and say, here's the deal. Okay. To work with me, it's $10,000. Okay. It's $10,000. Okay. And I look at it and say, how does that make you feel? Now they're going to look at me and go, what do you mean? So the price is $10,000. And I go, how does that make you feel? And they go, I don't. They don't. They're probably looking and go, it's a lot. Now, if they got millions and millions, they go, whatever. It doesn't. They're not concerned about it. But realize that that's what's happening. Is people say, what's the price? Well, then I asked this question. I said, help me understand something here. Okay, are you more concerned about price or cost? This usually short circuits their brain. They're sitting back going, price, cost, what do you mean? And then I say, well, let me give you an example, okay? So you start to understand this. Is that what I've seen with the people that work with me, okay, is historically what happens is that when I work with folks, is that they'll spend the $10,000 to work with me to help them build the things that they're trying to build. And in the end, I end up in a situation where they end up $100,000 or more better off. 100,000, that's 10x. Now, knowing that, how does it make you feel around the $10,000? If you knew that you could spend $10,000, get $100,000 on the back end, wouldn't you do it every single time? Because what that really is this idea of ROI, return on investment. Remember, we don't talk about cost unless it's in the context of value. And then I do this with them. I said, but you know what? You also know that there's another cost here, right? And again, they look at me and they said, I don't know. I said, think about this. There is one other cost that often we don't think about. And what that cost is actually the $100,000 that you will not get if you choose not to make that investment. And so the real question is to ask yourself, which cost are you more comfortable with? The cost of inaction, $100,000, or the cost of taking action, 10. That's a choice that you get to make. This is what starts to drive financial decisions. when you can create a paradigm like this where they look at it through the eyes of value, you get paid more. Real life, I had partners that pushed me out of the firm back, that set me on this trajectory. At the time, it was horrible. I had no cash flow, I had no clients, I had I had nothing. But they did me a favor, because I wouldn't be here talking with you, doing the things that I get to do, because they set me free. But in that year, when they pushed me out of the firm, they were charging $150 an hour, and they were using the old time and materials model. When I got out, I started to do project pricing. If you looked at the revenues, we had a firm with 29 people in it. I left the firm. I had one person that worked with me and one part-time. They kept 27 and a half people. They billed what they billed with 27 people, had to pay them all. I billed 80% of what they billed as a firm. 80%. But I took home 4 times what they took home. And the way this happened was because I focused on value. I didn't do time and materials. I created positioning. Let me give you one other framework, so it brings this idea of positioning home to you. Because this is where I see some people will start to fall apart when they don't realize this. At the very beginning, we get told, hey, you need to do marketing. You need to do marketing, okay? And the whole idea of marketing, though, is simply to raise the awareness of the market, that they know that we're there. And now, all of a sudden, people understand, oh, you're here. And then we go to the next stage. This is the evolution of what I call value selling, positioning selling, okay? Then what we do is we go to a sales conversation, which is this idea of how do you take the people that are aware of you and convert them into customers, convert them into buyers. And so what happens is then this is a time period in your journey where you are actually on the hunt. And you're hunting. But then you go to the next level, because marketing and sales, and all of a sudden you're having conversations, and those conversations lead to relationships. And these relationships are now things that people you network with and you're having conversations with and all that. And they actually will move you to a place where you get referrals. And that's great. But here's how referrals work. Referrals are one of those things where they say, I got 3 people that do the same thing. Here's the numbers. Go check them out. Let me know what you think. And just choose one. I'm fine with any of them. The reality is that you become part of a short list, and you want to be on as many short lists as possible, okay? And so instead of being on the hunt here, okay, instead of being on the hunt here, what's happening is now you're in pursuit, because you took them from here to relationships, and now you're pursuing. Now, here's the challenge with this, because all of this, what you're doing is you're trying to push people in the door. That's a lot of effort. That's a lot of effort. But there's a spot above this. And that spot above this, is here. And that is recommendations. See, the recommendations, instead of saying, hey, there's 3 people, go pick one of them, What they do is they say, I only work with Mel Abraham. Call him. So instead of being on a bunch of short lists, you become the short list of one. You become that person. And what we need to do is be in that space where we are recommended more and more. Now, there is one step above that, and this is actually where the game is really played. If you truly want to play the game at the highest level, what you need to focus on is positioning. Positioning will trump all of it. Positioning will supersede all of it, okay? And when you are in positioning, what's happening is that you're not in the hunt, you're not in pursuit, but you are pursued. People come after you. That's the game you need to play, because instead of pushing, now you're pulling. And they're coming in. This is where we need to play. I'll tell you what. Like I said, I used to do valuations. I still do some valuations. I'm very, very picky. But for a decade and a half, 15 years or more, you can't go to my website and see that I do valuations. There is a page, but you have to have the link. It's not openly available. I don't have business cards. I don't go to networking events. I don't meet with attorneys. I don't do any of that. But I spent the time building my positioning so much in that industry and in that marketplace that without marketing, without doing any sales talks or anything, every single year, I get calls to do work that is in the multiple six figures. That's positioning. The difference between this is this. If we take what you know, there's a lot of people that know what you know, including AI. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you known for what you know? That's positioning. When the question comes up, are they thinking about Jessica? Are they, I hope I do this right. Are they thinking about Dietmar? Who do they think of? And if you're inside a company as an employee, are they thinking of you to solve the problem? When I was inside the consulting firm and I was taking on all the projects that no one else wanted, when something came in, they thought of me. That's what we need to do, because what you're doing is you're raising the value in the eyes of the buyer, and that could be an employer, it could be a client. Your job is to be in a value exchange conversation, not a price exchange conversation. Okay? This is the game I want you to play. Because when you do that, you expand the shovel of income, because you are paid, one, your worth. Two, you're paid more than other people that aren't doing it. They're doing time and materials. They're doing competitive pricing. And three, when you take the principles of the money machine and building it in a way, then you're using that money. That's what's going to accelerate your wealth growth to give you the path to financial freedom at a faster rate. Okay? That's the game I want you to play. Now, if you all haven't done the 3-part training, or you want to go and watch the replays, just go to moneymachinelive.com and grab it. It's free. They'll be up for about a week. And go through the deep dive training. Get the workbook. Go through it. Get the idea of what you need to do to make that happen. Okay? All right. With that, I got a few minutes to answer a couple of questions on this. If it's on other things, I'll do another Q&A at some other point. But on this, I want to answer questions. I want to focus on this. So if you have a question, put a Q and a question, and let's see if we can get it answered. Like I said, I've got a handful of minutes before I have to roll to another call. Okay. Jessica says, I will go back to the work. I get all the tough clients no one wants because they are too tough to obtain results. Well, and if you get results from them, guess what? You become the fixer in that world. When my wife met me 15 years ago, she came to me one time. She goes, everyone that has a problem, they call you. You're like the fixer in their lives. And I am. Most of the time they call me and they say, hey, can you fix this for me? Which was one of the biggest challenges of the cancer. Because for the first time, I had to rely on someone else. I couldn't fix it. I had to trust someone else to do it. Dara says, how do you do this with services that are hard to price for the value you provide? Give me an example so I understand what it is, okay? And I'll tell you what. I just did a keynote for the hairstylist industry. And one of the first things I said, you stand behind a chair and you do hair. And if that's truly what you believe, then you're commoditizing what you do. You actually stand behind a chair and you transform lives. You allow people to step into the dream version of who they are, to see the beauty within them. It's a different conversation when you come at it from that perspective, saying, like, I go into a barbershop to get a haircut because it takes 15 minutes to do this. That's it. And the first 10 is to find the stupid hair to try and cut it. Okay. There is no, hey, but especially in the stylist industry, it's a very different lesson. Okay. So, Deemer says it's sports lessons. Well, when you say sports lessons, what is the value? Now, if you're dealing with collegiate athletes, sports education, well, you look at what can this give them there's different currencies. There can be monetary currencies. There can be time currencies. There can be status currencies. And you can create the same model. You can create the same model based on multiple currencies in their lives. What you need to look at is what is the thing that they're measuring it against. If they're coming to you for sports education, what's the result they want? That's how we're going to define it. Yeah. So how about energy healing that transform you on all levels? Too generic. What does it do specifically in people's lives? What have you seen? How's it affected their income? At what level? More specificity, their health, their relationships. Give the examples so they look at it. What you need, what we want, is as many Meg Ryan moments as possible. Remember the scene in Harry Met Sally? When she fakes the orgasm and the lady across the table says, I don't know what she's saying, I'll have that. What you want is everyone in your audience to look at you and go, ha, that's what I want. Okay. When you have a lot of people doing the same work, semi-truck mechanic, what's the strategy of finding solution value? Alondra, I was a bean counter. There's a lot of accountants out there. This is the thing. What we need to do is find an angle and a way to position you uniquely in the space. If I can do it with accounting, if they can get us to buy water at $6 a bottle, we can do it with semi-truck mechanics. It could be in the guarantee. It could be in the work. It could be in a lot of different things. There's a difference between Four Seasons and Holiday Inn. They're both hotels. They both have beds. But the experience is very different. Pamela says she's setting up a new business as a divorce recovery coach. Well, yeah, look at this messaging and really look at it, okay? Because that's going to be huge. And you're solving some big problems. Align with the person you were designed to be despite how you were conditioned, without a doubt, okay? Just trying to see if I have other questions because I have about 5 more minutes. I wonder this when my clients do their makeup or skincare, are they thinking of me? Well, our job, Jessica, is to make sure that they are thinking of you. That they aren't thinking, that you want to create a level of loyalty, connection. I am fiercely loyal to my providers as long as they provide. It takes me a while to make that decision, But once I make the decision, I'm in there for a long, long term. Okay. Deborah, you're asking how, okay, you're on a short list for many of your clients, museums, and collectors. And you're saying, how do I break into the insurance? That's a strategy question, okay? And it's going to take a little bit of time. You need to create, just like I did. When I was trying to break in, I was sending out newsletters every month. And I was hand signing the letters. And my team would sit on the floor and we would stuff envelopes every month, 600, 750 newsletters every month. I did research into all of the accounting associations and bar associations, and I would send those press releases out and articles out to them. I would do requests. You have to do some grassroots getting after. I try to do a lot of speaking. We do grassroots reach out. I want to be in as many stages to get this message out to people so they can find the path to financial freedom. And so we will do grassroots outreach, okay, to really make it happen, okay? And now the other side of it is to ask for referrals. Goes to, I think it's Lori's question. How to build up the positioning from client referrals. We need the client referrals. Ask for the referrals. Is it, when you get done with a client, like I just negotiated a deal. And I literally asked them, said, would you be open to introducing me to some of your colleagues to put me on their stages? They said, absolutely. And we made it part of the deal. So there's ways to incentivize for referrals, but more importantly, you do a great job and they start to talk about it, it starts to change things. And this is a long-term strategy that has long-term effects. Remember my situation. It took me a while. It took me probably 3 years to really get the traction going. But this is in a time when we didn't have internet. I had to do it with snail mail, networking, calls, meeting, lunches. It took me about 3 years to get that traction. But effectively, for the last 15 plus years, I've done nothing. And it's still going. But I had to get the traction, build the reputation, get the results, and now people talk. And they still talk. Okay. So, all right. I got to roll to another call. This is such a great conversation. I may put another Q&A on, and let's have more of a conversation around this, because the reality is this. We often focus on the expense side of the equation to build wealth. There's another side of the equation, and that's the income side. It's driven by the value you create, the positioning you have. And we need to first get our mind into the space and place where we can stand in the conviction and own our worth. What is the value I create in their lives? Be willing to figure out how to articulate it, to interview and spend time with your clients and say, what did I do for you in your life? What does it look like? What does that feel like? I know what it feels like when someone says, I just retired my husband. I just retired we are work optional now. We get to live by choice. I know what that is for them. That's the game we're playing long term. Get real with it. But the most difficult thing for people to do is to first step into it as part of their identity. But when you do, the rules change. Because there will be people that are still going to want to buy on time and materials. They're not your clients. That's okay. There's plenty of people that don't become a client of mine. I'm okay with that. But I want to serve here. And that's what I do. And I think that's the thing that we need to do. All right. I hope that this helps. I hope that this puts a perspective in how you look at how you show up, how you make money. And ask yourself these questions of how can I look at it from my client standpoint, but even as a job. If I am inside a company, how can you create more value for the company so you become indispensable and so valuable that they're going to keep you? And how can you work with that company in a way where you say, how can I be more valuable to you so you make the case to get paid more? I did it when I was at the consulting firm. You can do it inside a company, you can do it outside a company. But it is our job to own first and deliver and then request, not the other way around. Own it first, deliver results, then request the value. Okay? That's the game we're playing. All right, y'all? All right. I hope that you have an amazing day. Those of you that are in it, make sure you go through Money Machine Live, the Money Machine Experience Live, okay? Go to moneymachinelive.com. Go through the replays. Do the quiz. I'm doing a giveaway next week. Do the quiz. We're going to have some fun, all right? And let's get it going. Let's keep the conversation going because the world needs you. The world needs you fully expressed. The world needs the gifts that you have. The world needs you and your positivity in a big way. It doesn't need the myopic, the infighting, all that stuff. It needs for you to show up as the bright light you are, fully immersed in life. And if I can help in any way, it would be a gift to me and a blessing to help you along the way. All right, y'all. I hope I see you as we keep doing some of these trainings on my show or on the road as I'm out there speaking. And until I do, as I always say, always go out there and live a life that outlives you. See you next time. Cheers for now.